bar, Kim ordered for the both of them, sliding a cold glass across the table to Lee. "So," he started casually, "you want to talk about it?" Lee hesitated, staring at the drink like it held all the answers. "Talk about what?" Kim raised an eyebrow. "What happened with Inji?" Lee stiffened, his shoulders hunching defensively. "It's fine. I'm fine." Kim let out a knowing sigh, leaning back in his chair. "You're not fine, and that's okay. You're allowed to not be fine, you know?" Lee didn't respond immediately. Instead, he took a long sip of his drink, his thoughts churning. "Did you know I'm awakened?" he asked suddenly, the words tumbling out like they'd been waiting for an opening. Kim nodded. "I know. And I know you've cleared the first exam, too." Lee's grip tightened around his glass. "Then you know I should have been able to do something. But I didn't. I just stood there." The weight of his admission hung between them, heavy and raw. Kim didn't interrupt, letting Lee continue. "Inji almost died because I froze. What kind of raider does that make me?" Lee's voice cracked, the frustration and guilt spilling out. Kim leaned forward, his gaze steady. "The kind who's still learning. And that's okay." To drive the point home, Kim launched into a story. "You know, before I opened this gym, I used to be a boxer," he said, his tone lighter now, as if easing Lee into the lesson. Lee blinked, caught off guard. "You? A boxer?" Kim frowned, clearly offended. "Don't look so surprised. I wasn't always this, built." He patted his stomach, grinning. "Back in the day, I was fast, agile. And I wasn't just some amateur either, I was good." Lee couldn't help but laugh, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "Yeah? How good?" Kim's grin faded, his expression growing serious. "Good enough to have a rival. A guy I considered a little brother. We pushed each other, made each other better. But one day, I hit him too hard." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. "He died in the ring, and I haven't boxed since." Kim's voice was low, almost a whisper. "I let that moment define me for years. I blamed myself, felt like I didn't deserve to be in the sport anymore. But you know what? That's not living. That's just surviving." He leaned forward, his gaze locking onto Lee's. "You can't let one bad moment define you, Lee. Yeah, you froze. It happens. But it doesn't mean you're not cut out for this. It just means you've got room to grow." Lee didn't respond right away, his thoughts a whirlwind of self-doubt and the coach's words. Kim, sensing he wasn't quite getting through, switched tactics. "Tell you what," Kim said, smirking. "Think you could have beaten me back in my prime?" Lee snorted. "Not a chance." Kim grinned, throwing a mock punch in the air. "Damn right. But now, I bet you'd win. You're stronger than you think, kid. You just need to believe it." He clapped Lee on the back, the gesture both reassuring and firm. "You've got what it takes to be a great raider. But first, you've got to stop beating yourself up." The next day, Lee was back at Taesung Academy, standing in a VR simulation room. "Ready?" the instructor asked, setting up the simulation. Lee gripped his sword tightly, nodding. "Yeah, let's do this." His first opponent was a Jorg, the wolf-like monster he'd faced during the attack. Lee powered up his sword, the mana glowing faintly around the blade. With one swift strike, he took it down, the simulated beast dissolving into pixels. The instructor raised an eyebrow. "Not bad. Want to stop there?" Lee shook his head. "No, I want something tougher." The instructor hesitated. "How tough are we talking?" Lee's jaw tightened. "Sinkus. Give me Sinkus." The instructor's eyes widened. "You sure about that?" Lee nodded, his grip on the sword tightening. "I'm sure." And just like that, the simulation loaded. The dragon appeared, towering over him, its eyes glowing with malice. Lee took a deep breath, steadying himself. This time, he wasn't going to freeze. This time, he was ready. The stage was set. Sinkus roared, and Lee charged, determination burning in his eyes. Whatever happened next, one thing was clear. Lee Semin was done standing still. The simulation boots up, and the AI-controlled Sinkus roars to life, looking every bit as terrifying as the real deal. Leave it to Taesung Academy to craft a dragon simulation that feels like it could actually bite your head off. Lee stands there with his wooden practice sword glowing faintly from his aura, confidence brimming after his last easy win against the Jorg. But the second he charges forward, Swinging his sword with all the gusto of a seasoned warrior, reality comes crashing down. His attack barely leaves a scratch on the beast's hide. The Sincus doesn't even flinch. It turns its massive head, locking its glowing, predatory eyes onto him as if to say, "That's it?" Lee's confidence wavers for a split second, just long enough for the Sincus to retaliate. His tail snaps toward him like a battering ram. Instinct kicks in, and Lee ducks just in time, feeling the air above him ripple from the force of the attack. That's when it hits him. This isn't just another warm-up. This dragon isn't playing. Backing up, Lee's grip on his sword tightens. His mind flashes to the teachings of Dako Kyanma. Control your breathing. Let your mind lead your body. He plants his feet, adjusting his stance, and activates Xing Yiquan. The calm focus washes over him like a tide, his movements sharpening. In one fluid motion, he channels his aura through the sword and slashes upward. The blade slices clean through the Sincus's neck, severing it in a single strike. The dragon collapses, its massive frame dissolving into harmless pixels. Lee exhales, his heart still hammering in his chest. Victory. But instead of basking in the moment, something stirs within him, an itch to go further, to push past his current limits. The precision of Xing Yiquan has shown him what's possible when the body and mind work in perfect harmony. And for the first time, Lee feels like he's only just scratched the surface of his potential. But the simulation isn't done with him yet. The Sincus reappears, this time in Phase 2. Its digital form hums with concentrated aura, as if it's undergone some kind of monstrous evolution. Its movements are faster, more aggressive, and its aura radiates with a fiery intensity. Lee steadies his breathing, remembering the chaos of the real Sincus encounter, the one where Inji lost his arm. That failure creeps into his thoughts, but instead of letting it overwhelm him, he channels it into determination. No more freezing, no more hesitation. He lunges forward, each move deliberate, every strike infused with purpose. This isn't about winning anymore, it's about redemption. Days later, the combat evaluation test arrives, and Lee finds himself standing in the Coliseum, the primary testing ground for aspiring raiders. The air buzzes with tension as candidates mill about in protective gear, each wearing numbered uniforms. Lee, ever the minimalist, is rocking a simple hoodie and a cap with his number, 13, stamped across his chest. A staff member passes out weapons, and Lee requests a sword, wooden, but familiar, in his hands. He swings it lightly, testing its weight, before taking a deep breath. This is it. The candidates whisper among themselves, throwing names around. One name stands out, Lee Yun-Hu, the immortality freak, rumored to be supervising the exam. Lee barely registers the gossip. His focus is locked onto the task ahead. A man in glasses steps forward, clipboard in hand, and addresses the group. Congratulations on making it this far. But don't get comfortable. The next phase is a combat evaluation. Your protective gear is rigged with sensors. Get hit with a fatal blow, and you're disqualified. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Oh, and one more thing, the man adds, pushing up his glasses. This isn't a free-for-all. Your objective is to eliminate as many candidates as possible. The last one standing wins. Lee's stomach tightens. It's not just about surviving, it's about dominating. Sign the waivers, the man says, and good luck. You'll need it. The massive doors to the testing grounds creak open, revealing a dense forest-like arena. The candidates pour in, each one calculating their strategy. Lee hangs back, letting the more eager participants rush ahead. The timer shows 5 minutes until the test officially begins. As the countdown ticks closer to 0, Lee notices a brown-haired guy lingering near him. The guy smirks, leaning casually on his spear. What's your plan? Waiting for the others to thin the herd. Lee doesn't respond, his gaze locked on the forest ahead. The guy chuckles, shaking his head. Smart. No point in diving in right away. Let the cannon fodder tire themselves out. But Lee's not here to chat. Without warning, he launches forward, his wooden sword striking at the guy's midsection. The brown-haired candidate blocks effortlessly, spinning his spear to force Lee back. So that's how it is, the guy says, his smirk widening. He shifts into an offensive stance, keeping Lee at bay with the reach of his spear. You're a sword fighter, huh? Not bad. But you're gonna need more than that to take me down. The two exchange a rapid series of blows, their movements blurring as they push each other to their limits. The brown-haired guy is skilled, his spear darting like a snake, keeping Lee on the defensive. You know, the guy says mid-fight, we could team up, take out the weaker candidates first, then settle this between us. What do you say? Lee doesn't answer. Instead, he uses his sword to lock the spear in place, twisting it with surprising force. The spear clatters to the ground, and before the guy can recover, Lee drops his weapon and charges barehanded. A blue aura envelopes his fist as he delivers a devastating punch to the guy's chest. The impact sends the brown-haired candidate flying backward, his protective gear lighting up with a flashing disqualified message. Combat disabled. Candidate number 222 eliminated, announces a voice over the loudspeakers. Lee straightens, adjusting his cap as he glances down at the unconscious candidate. First blood, he mutters, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. He grabs his sword and strides deeper into the forest. In the monitoring room, the test results light up on the screen. First elimination, candidate number 222 by candidate number 13, a staff member reports. The room buzzes with chatter. The head of Hasang Company leans forward, his brow furrowed. Who's candidate number 13? A representative from Renegade laughs. I've heard rumors. Supposedly, Iron Horse has someone promising this year. The chief of the Infinite Society chimes in. Above 30,000 aura, right? That'd be their rookie. Sounds like they're cleaning house out there. Kim Seonha, watching from her seat, smiles faintly. Looks like it's shaping up to be an interesting test, she says, her tone casual. But her eyes are sharp, locked on the screen as the names and scores update in real time. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Lee adjusts his grip on his sword, his eyes scanning for his next target. He knows he's made an impression. Now, he just has to survive long enough to prove he's more than just a lucky shot. The battle has only just begun. The teachings of the legendary martial artist, Dako Kyanma, are taking root deep within Lee. The old man's lessons weren't just about hitting hard or overpowering opponents with sheer force, they were about control. To fight with aura, Kyanma taught, is to draw your enemy into your world, to make them dance to your rhythm, your tune. Victory lies in creating the illusion that you're not just stronger, you're inevitable. Lee understood the theory, sure, but it's one thing to know and another to execute. And as he prowls the dense forest, eyes scanning for his next target, he realizes something. Fighting raiders is a different beast entirely from facing monsters. This isn't life or death. It's a chess game disguised as combat. It's about strategy, precision, and throwing as few punches as possible to get the job done. Right now, Lee's focus is on the leaderboard. He's racked up a few kills, but he needs more to make an impression. And then he spots them. Candidates number 156 and number 66, locked in a heated duel. Their blades clash, sparks flying as they circle each other, completely unaware of the predator watching them from the shadows. Lee smirks, adjusting his grip on his sword. He's not one for theatrics or drawn-out fights. He moves like a shadow, silent and swift, and in one clean, precise motion whoosh, his blade slices through the air. Before either of them can react, both candidates collapse. Double elimination. Lee steps over their fallen forms without breaking stride, his expression calm and composed. It's almost unsettling how little effort it took. Meanwhile, in the monitoring room, the heads of the top raider companies are glued to their screens, watching the live feed of the combat evaluation. The room is buzzing with energy, tension palpable as the candidates battle it out. When number 156 and number 66 go down simultaneously, the head of Renegade nearly spits out his drink. "Who the hell is that?" he demands, pointing at the screen showing candidate number 13 walking away like he's just taken a casual stroll. Another executive shakes his head in disbelief. That was Wuguk Association's rising star, taken out in a single move. The murmurs spread across the room, each company leader speculating about the identity of this mysterious candidate. Kim Seonha, seated toward the back, is the only one who seems to recognize him. She leans forward, eyes narrowing as she studies the figure on the screen. Her expression is a mix of surprise and discomfort. "Do you know him?" a blonde-haired colleague asks, noticing her reaction. Seonha doesn't answer right away. She knows exactly who he is, but she's struggling to reconcile the Lee Semin she's seeing now with the bumbling, self-doubting rookie she met just days ago. This isn't the same man. No, this Lee Semin is sharper, more focused, and far deadlier. Elsewhere in the arena, Yubai, the Iron Horse rookie and current darling of the competition, is on a rampage. Her blade moves with deadly precision as she cuts through yet another opponent, candidate number 27, who had been holding his own moments ago. Her kill count climbs to 15, a number so absurd it's almost comical for a rookie. But Yubai's not laughing. She's calm, composed, and completely in control. She takes a brief pause, catching her breath as her blood thrums with excitement. The fight is exhilarating, and she's ready for more. But then, a faint rustling catches her attention. Her sharp eyes dart toward the noise, scanning the treeline. A shadow moves between the trees, and then he steps into view. Lee Semin. Their eyes lock, and for a moment, time seems to freeze. Yubai's expression flickers with surprise. This isn't the trembling, wide-eyed rookie she saw before. No, this Lee Semin stands tall, his aura steady and resolute. He radiates confidence in a way that makes her pause, reassessing him entirely. For his part, Lee is equally caught off guard. So this is Yubai, the rookie everyone's talking about, the one with the absurd kill count. He takes a deep breath, steadying himself. Yubai recovers first, a playful smile tugging at her lips. So, she says, tilting her head slightly, "You're the one who made a bet with my senior? Bold move." Lee smirks, his grip tightening on his sword. "I like a challenge." She laughs softly, but there's a spark of admiration in her eyes as she glances at his kill count. 10. Impressive for someone who was, by all accounts, a nobody not too long ago. But admiration only goes so far. Yubai adjusts her stance, readying her blade. "Let's see what you've got," she says, her tone light but her intent razor-sharp. Yubai moves first, her speed almost impossible to track as she closes the distance between them in the blink of an eye. Her blade arcs toward Lee, a strike so precise it could end the fight in an instant. But Lee isn't the same as before. He sidesteps, the blade missing him by mere inches. His heart pounds in his chest. She's fast, faster than anyone he's fought so far. Yubai doesn't let up. She presses the attack, her sword a blur as she lashes out again and again. Lee is forced to dodge, barely keeping up with her relentless assault. Then she switches tactics, snapping her leg out in a powerful kick. Lee raises his left arm to block, his aura flaring as he absorbs the impact. But he doesn't stop there. With a fluid motion, he counters, his sword slicing upward in the same instant. The blade grazes her chin, leaving a faint mark. Yubai freezes, her eyes widening in shock. She steps back, touching her chin and feeling the sting of the cut. For the first time in this competition, someone has managed to land a blow on her. Lee straightens, his expression calm but his eyes blazing with determination. "I adapt quickly," he says, his voice steady. Yubai chuckles, her initial surprise giving way to genuine excitement. "You're full of surprises," she admits. She unties her hair, letting it fall loose around her shoulders, a symbolic gesture. Her aura shifts, dark energy radiating from her like a storm. The Fuckma sword in her hand seems to come alive, its presence oppressive and suffocating. Lee feels the temperature drop as the weight of her aura crashes over him. It's monstrous, raw, and terrifying. But instead of retreating, he tightens his grip on his sword. He's scared, how could he not be? But he refuses to let that fear control him. "I won't run this time," he says, meeting her gaze head-on. Yubai grins, impressed by his resolve. "Good," she replies. "Let's see how long you can keep that promise." The two charge at each other, their auras colliding in a burst of energy. The clash is fierce, their determination fueling every strike, every dodge, every counter. And just as the tension reaches its peak, a voice cuts through the air. The individual battles have now ended. Lee's protective gear activates with a hiss, locking him down like a malfunctioning robot. His mana fizzles out, and his body is pinned to the ground with the force of gravity cranked up to 11. Thud! His face hits the dirt. But honestly, he couldn't care less. A wave of relief washes over him as he realizes he's just been saved from certain humiliation. Meanwhile, Yubai, still radiating that devilish aura, lets out an audible scoff. She clearly wasn't done playing. Her lips tighten into a smirk, the kind that says, "I'll finish you next time." The second qualification exam ends with a bizarre sense of finality, like a story cut off mid-sentence. Wounded candidates are promptly carted off to the treatment area, while the rest are corralled into the exam room for the dreaded final phase, the in-depth evaluation. Now, you'd think after all that sword-swinging and aura-clashing, they'd let the candidates take a breather, right? Nope. The organizers have cooked up their ultimate masterpiece of misery, an essay test. As Lee plops into his seat, he's greeted by a blank page and a pencil. For a split second, panic flares in his chest. What is this, art class? His heart races as the announcement comes through. Write a 5,000-character essay explaining why you want to become a raider and what you believe the mission of a raider is. You have 1 hour. Failure to complete the essay will result in disqualification. The collective gasp that follows is almost deafening. A room full of battle-hardened candidates freezes, their confusion palpable. Lee stares at the blank page like it's some kind of alien artifact. His brain immediately launches into overdrive, searching for inspiration. Why do I want to become a raider? He mentally sorts through potential stories. Maybe he could write about being trapped in a gate and saved by a heroic raider? Too cliché. Or he could go with the classic, I watched raiders on TV, and now I'm inspired angle? Nah, everyone's probably doing that. Then, like a lightning bolt, it hits him, justice. His mind flashes back to his childhood, to those early days when he believed raiders were noble heroes, protectors of the weak. He remembers his time in school, when he'd stand up to bullies because he couldn't stand seeing others suffer. Being an orphan himself, Lee knew what it felt like to be powerless. He vowed to become someone who could protect others. The memories start pouring in. He thinks of his adoptive parents, the ones who gave him a second chance at life. They never needed words to show their love. Their actions spoke volumes. One day, they handed him a letter, revealing the truth about his biological mother, who had passed away. It was then that his adoptive father sat him down and asked, "What kind of person do you want to become, Lee? Everyone has a purpose." Those words had stuck with him. His adoptive father's wisdom, his unwavering support, and the belief that their meeting was destiny had shaped Lee's dream. Before he left to chase that dream, his father told him to stay true to his name. Lee summoned for the world and its people. And now, sitting in this exam room, those words feel heavier than ever. This isn't about glory. It's about doing what's right. The countdown time is ticking down, and the pressure is mounting. With only 5 minutes left, Lee's page is still blank. Instead of writing, he's lost in a heroic mental monologue about humanity battling monsters and the role of aura in saving the world. Great stuff for a speech, but terrible for an essay. Finally, he snaps out of it and grabs his pen, determined to write something, anything. He's got this grand idea about duty and protecting world peace. But before he can even jot down a single word, the clock strikes 0. The exam is over. Lee stares at his empty page, his stomach sinking as reality hits. Not a single word. He's blown it. Completely. At the hospital visit a few days later, Lee finds himself visiting Inji in the hospital, a gift bag in hand. They exchange awkward smiles like two people who've been through way too much together in way too little time. "How's it going?" Lee asks, his tone casual but warm. Inji shrugs, holding up a novel. "I've been reading to pass the time. Do you like novels?" Lee blinks. "Me? Novels? Nah, not really my thing." Inji smirks. "Figured as much." Lee cracks open a drink from the gift bag and leans back. "So, when are you getting out of here?" Inji sighs. "Not anytime soon. They've got me doing some private studies while I'm here." Lee bursts out laughing. "Studying? In a hospital? What are you, a scholar now?" Inji rolls his eyes, but the playful banter feels good. It's normal, almost. Then, in a quieter moment, Inji reveals his dream. He wants to become a firefighter. Lee's jaw drops. "A firefighter? Seriously?" "Yeah," Inji says, his voice steady. "Firefighters save lives too, you know? Just like raiders." Lee leans back, processing this. He'd always imagined Inji as a fellow raider, but the kid has his own dreams and they're just as noble. As they say their goodbyes, Inji asks, "When will we see each other again?" Lee pauses, then grins. "In 2 years." 2 years? What are you, a time traveler?" Lee laughs, giving Inji a playful pat on the head. "Just stay strong, okay? Our next meeting's going to be epic." As Lee leaves the hospital, His mind is already on what's next. The chapter ends with a tantalizing reveal. Lee's been confirmed for active duty enlistment. What does that mean? Where is he heading? And what chaos awaits him next? Stay tuned because things are about to get real. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment Flamingo and subscribe for the next part.